evening. I call this meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners to order. Grace, will you please take roll?
Alderperson Chanda Kundiger is excused. Alderperson Defnet Ledvina.
Here.
Alderperson Esserkhan.
Here.
Randy Silky.
Here.
Jim Kneisel.
Here.
Melissa Thiel Collar.
Here.
Elizabeth McMasters.
Here.
Connor Mason.
Here.
And James Lyga.
Here.
Thank you, Grace. We have quorum. Next on the agenda, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comments period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Park Commissioners. Is there anyone who wishes to address us upon matters not on the agenda? All right, moving on. Number 3, items. Number 1 is consideration and possible action to approve the Board of Park Commissioners minutes from May 15th, 2025. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, consideration and possible action to approve the 2024-2025 year-end financial statements for the PereIce Arena. Should we open up the meeting first, Marty? Are the folks here, are you here for this one or are you for the next
there's
item?
3 things related to the ice arena tonight. One is just the financial report. Don Chilson is here if you would have any questions for him. I don't think we have to, ask him to do an improv presentation, but with the number of items, I asked that he be here. So if you do have any questions, he is here, but otherwise, this is just the regular financial report.
Does anyone have any questions for? All right,
I'll move to approve.
Second.
thank you. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from that one.
I'm sorry, you're going to abstain?
Yeah.
Thank you. Please note the abstention. The motion carries. Next on the item 3, consideration and possible action to approve De Pere Youth Hockey Association donation proposal of up to $50,000 for the De Pere Ice Center improvements. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? I think it's a really wonderful offer. So I'd like to thank the people responsible for being willing to put forth that kind of money to make it a better place, a better facility. So, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 4, consideration and possible action to approve the creation of a De PereIce Arena Fundraising Committee.
I guess I have a question.
Sure.
Should I make a motion first to approve?
That would be the best.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Shayna, you have a question?
Marty, you just mentioned in your opinion that there's details to cover. Is that something that would be handled by the legal department? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, so like when it comes to the park board, we want you to look at it as kind of just more of a holistic, concept. So we think it's a great idea that the group fundraises and has a mechanism to do that. Now, to get to the point that something weird doesn't happen or some conflicts occur, I think we need to sit down and generate an agreement with them. And we've done this in the past with other groups that have done fundraising efforts. We kind of slow it down a little bit. We go through, we make sure we have an agreement that they're following, and then we think of things that could go wrong. One thing is, that we obviously need to cover, and this, to me, is a minor detail. One of the things the fundraising committee is looking at doing is selling banners within the ice rink. Well, Brown County Ice Management also does that. So we have to find a way that doesn't conflict with each other and compete with each other. So it's little things like that I think we need to, on the surface, I think it's a great idea. Now we just have to slow down and look for the little details that could cause us problems down the way, and then have that generated into an agreement.
Okay.
Will the agreement come back then?
The agreement would not come back here, but it would go to council.
Okay.
Now that being said, if for some reason the agreement would drastically changed the look of the fundraising effort, then yeah, it would come back here.
Okay.
And there are members, if you have questions, Cassie and Brandon are here from, as well as Don. They're from the Youth Hockey Association, and Don's from the Brown County Ice Management Team. I wanted to say Cornerstone.
I guess I would kind of like to learn how this plays into the long-range plans that are still up in the air, right? They're not.
Yeah, I wish I had some concrete update for you, but what's happening right now is the mayor and our city manager are 3/4 of the way through meeting with each of the groups. So prior to moving forward, we wanted to wait until Kim got her feet under her here. And then we wanted to bring her in slowly and so she could understand what's going on. So Kim and the mayor have been meeting with each of the groups, and there's 2 more groups to go. Once that occurs, then internally we'll be sitting down, and then the item will actually go to council for further direction. So I can't tell you, the meetings have been very good with the groups. I don't think there is this wave anywhere that I've seen for people to, throw a stick of dynamite in the ice arena and blow it up and, make it a parking lot. I haven't seen that, but outside of that, it's hard for me to speak for the council. But there's been very good meetings with the user groups.
I'm more curious about if the groups are optimistic that maybe the fundraising might lead to a proposal for a new building even at some point, or
Well,
just to keep things going year to year.
I can't speak for the groups, but I think, De Pere Youth Hockey, I think, is really taking a leadership role of all of the groups. You can see they have 2 proposals here. One is for a $50,000 donation, and one is to spearhead a fundraising committee to essentially improve the rink. I can't speak for them. I don't believe their intent is to fundraise so we can build a brand new facility. I believe their intent is to repair and improve the facility in a manner that the city would like to see that occur. Now, does that mean, remember there's those several options, fix what we got or tear off the front and build that new. So I think that's their intent. But who knows? Maybe they find a big donor and want to build a big old rink.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. Since you came, I wondered if anybody would want to say anything or just address the board.
And I think that would be, as long as they came here, I think that'd be a great idea.
I would like
at least
to move
offer
to
them.
open, just so we can hear what they might have to say.
Do we go here?
Yep.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of opening the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, please step forward to the mics. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, Cassandra Brill, 1353 Morning Dove Court, De Pere.
Brandon Bergner, 1010 Bluebird Street.
So, if you'd like to give us a little background and
A little overview.
Yeah.
yeah, where you're
Absolutely.
headed.
So what we are interested in right now is making sure that we are leveraging what's available at the ice rink to work to earn money to put back into the ice rink. So looking at the other rinks, because we travel to a lot of them in the state, we see a lot of advertising opportunity. And we really want to make sure that we're using that to get money to put into the rink. Our intent right now, we're looking at short-term improvements and long-term improvements. And Marty just reviewed long-term's a little bit up in the air, but we do have a lot of needs. We have safety things like the rubber flooring. We have people tripping. We have skates gouging out. We want to make sure when we have visitors come to our rink, they're safe. They're not saying, oh, that De Pere rink, right? We want to make sure we're safe. We're presenting our community in a good light. So really, we just want to get the ball rolling on having the rink start earning money for itself. We have taken a look at we could potentially be earning $60,000 a year. So you, of course, have to get started. You have to sell that. That'll take a couple of years to build up. We'll have to get creative with how we do that and get the system running. So right now our goal is really just to get the ball in motion and start earning money for the rink that we can use to do those short-term improvements while looking at the long-term picture.
Other questions?
Good luck. No, I mean, I think that's great. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
We appreciate the enthusiasm from the user groups.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Yeah, it's exciting. We spend a lot of time there, right?
Tons of time there.
does anybody have any other questions? Well, thank you for sharing with the board. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll move to close the meeting.
I'll second. All those in favor of closing the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're back in closed session. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We wish you the best, and hopefully all these pieces that Marty has shared with us will be able to get woven together, and you'll see yourself at a council meeting sometime. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, sorry, Jim, I lost my place with the amazing.
There you go.
Number 5.
Right here, consideration and possible action to approve pool facility attendance certification reimbursement.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? It was Elizabeth. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We move on now to discussion items. Discussion item number 1, discussion on new park name in the Waterview Heights subdivision. I know we have 2 people in the audience who would like to speak on this issue, so I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of opening the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a speakers list, so let's hear from Jim Anderson first. Jim, if you'd like to step forward. I know it's old hat for you, but again, please state your address, name and address for the record when you sit down at the mic, please.
Jim Anderson, I live at 915 Memory Lane in De Pere. I would assume that you have all received something from my colleague about the naming of parks. And I'm just here to thank you for taking time to consider that it's no longer a haphazard way that parks get named, but you're putting some thought and some time and effort into how you're going to name your parks, what they're going to represent, and hopefully that the people that the parks are named after have some kind of historical significance in the city of De Pere. So I appreciate your efforts, okay?
Well, thank you, Jim. I believe Matt Hoffman would like to speak on this issue too. Matt, if you'd please step forward and also state your name and address for the record, please.
Matt Hoffman, 1014 South Jackson Street, Green Bay. Did live in De Pere my whole life up until 2020. So I researched De Pere and Green Bay local history, and the blog post that Jim mentioned last meeting was one that I had written about Henry Cady. Henry Cady was 15 years old when he volunteered for the Civil War. A lot of underage boys volunteered for the Civil War. He brought, because of that, I believe, he brought a childhood enthusiasm and eagerness to the De Pere Rifles, Company F, that he served in. He was shot at the Battle of Vicksburg and died from complications of that wound. After the Civil War, one of his company mates retold the story to his wife, who published the story Little Cady, and the story was published far and wide across the U.S., kind of like a Civil War tearjerker. His family farm, I believe, is pretty nearby where the park is proposed, and he is buried in the cemetery used to be known as Old Katy Cemetery, which is now Lawrence Cemetery. So I just want to put my support behind the name Henry Katy. And if any of you have any questions for me, given that I've written the blog post, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them.
Thanks, Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Matt?
I'd like to thank Matt just for bringing me up to speed on that history, and much more history. And I think we in the Historic Preservation Commission could benefit from some of Matt's research work, not just for naming parks, but for plaques or other things that we can do in the city to promote history. So I appreciate you coming, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, and just in closing, I'd just like to second Jim's thought of more historical naming. I'm very for all that too, as well, so that'd be great. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. A motion to close the meeting is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor of closing the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're back in closed session. Shayna.
I have a question, Marty. So Rainbow Park is the only neighborhood park that we have based on the list, right? Like
I'm
that's
sorry,
there
could you-
because of a subdivision going in?
repeat that again, I'm sorry.
Is Rainbow Park the only park that exists because a subdivision went in? And the subdivision was required to dedicate a park space?
I don't know if I could accurately answer
I'm
that,
like-
because you're going back, you could go back 50 years with that question, and there could be some subdivisions that occurred and land was donated, but I don't know if we have
Okay.
those answers.
I just looking through the list, it seems like that's,
These are only the ones that are named after people, right?
no, there's other ones on the list.
I think Brazier
Oh,
Park
Which
was
one?
Oh, got it.
was kind of like that.
As far as it being donated from the developer?
No, it wasn't donated from the developer, but the neighborhood grew up around it, and it was dedicated probably because that was a good spot for it, but I
I
don't
know, I get,
think that was donated by dedicated by the developer, no.
no, I don't think it was. It doesn't say that in here. I guess I really, just looking at the history of the parks, I really like that Rainbow Park was named by the neighborhood surrounding it. I don't disagree with naming parks after historical figures, but there's other parks that we have, that like Rusk, or we have some parks that are just named because of their location near a street, that I could see maybe renaming after doing some serious studying and vetting of historical figures from De Pere, maybe in conjunction with like Historic Preservation Commission or the De Pere Historical Society. I just feel like we're just kind of throwing names out, and we haven't really considered all of the options that might be out there. And I guess just reading through this, I really liked that the neighborhood residents submitted names for Rainbow Park and came up with the name on their own. I think that would be kind of a neat thing to offer up to this community to do as well. So that was just kind of my initial thoughts on reading through all of this.
Jim, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to make sure I noted to thank Marty for putting all this information together, because I assume this took quite a lot of time.
Well, if you're referring to the park origin, that the credit of that needs to go to Andy Ponsloff. He's our marketing guru here.
Okay.
He actually put that together, and it was wonderful that he did it. We just
It was really more than I
fortunately
expected.
remembered that he did it.
It was more than I expected, so I really appreciated all that. And I think it'll be great to have for the future,
Melissa.
So I usually agree with you, Shayna, but I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Okay.
And I even live in this neighborhood, so I think the name that Jim has proposed does have significance for that particular park. The Lawrence Cemetery is very near the neighborhood. The our neighborhood was built on farmland. It was a huge farm, and the possibility that that was Katie's farm probably has a very good possibility, if not that land, near that land. I do think there is value in naming a park after a historical figure, especially a park for someone who was 15 and went off to war. If that is what is the chosen name, I would like to see a plaque at that park so that kids who come to visit the park can read it and understand, and it could, hopefully become some sort of inspiration as well for our young kids too.
James?
It's basically mostly on topic. I was looking through the list, and I like history, so it was very cool to see all this work that was put into all this. I know I'll be showing my dad this; he'll love it. But in terms of Wilcox Park, I thought it's kind of disappointing that it's just named after a street, and yet there was a person behind it, this Willis Saul, that donated 18 lots to the city. I don't know at the time, historically, how valuable 18 lots would be, but I think it's kind of, in my opinion, a little disappointing that it's just named after a street when he actually gave the land for the park. So maybe kind of a future agenda item, but maybe looking into that a little bit, in my opinion.
Anyone else have thoughts? It is a discussion item, so we don't need a motion.
Correct, but it sure would be nice to get some direction.
So, question.
Sure.
Did everybody submit a name? Or, because, no, this is just
The-
only history.
the-
Nobody brought a new name.
The only submittals that I received were what you saw within my memo to you, and that was Mr. Nick submitted an idea. Randy had threw an idea at me at the soft opening, and Mr. Kneisel also.
Okay. I didn't know if I was supposed to submit it earlier, if we just raise it, but is that what we're supposed to do?
Well, tonight is also discussion, so
Okay.
whether you gave it to me prior to this meeting, but even now would be a great time so that we can keep vetting ideas and eventually come to some consensus where we can put something to a vote. So if all of you have any ideas, please,
So I did a little bit of research, and I'm obviously not from De Pere originally, so I don't have that history side. I really love the history side of things. But something that is a little bit near and dear with having young children is that I feel like we're hearing way too often right now about children who are losing their lives due to whatever circumstances, and there's been a number in our school districts that have been just awful. And I know that that's not unique to De Pere, West De Pere, so on, whatever. So I kind of had the idea, what if you were to have a park that is in memory of these children? And I didn't want it to be, a morbid thing. I want it to be a happy place, something that people, when they read the name, it's not something that they think oh, it's just in memory of something like that. So I actually went on ChatGPT and started putting in all these criteria into there, and it actually spit out a name that kind of spoke to me. And so my thought is that, and this is just an idea or something that might spark other discussion, but if we were able to have the families have a bench in memory of some of these children that is near and dear to their hearts, and maybe have a plaque. And the name that stuck out at me was Everbright Park. And you could have a plaque that said, in memory of children who have lost their lives too soon, may their lives stay ever bright. So, just an idea.
Like that.
And I thought it's not something that when you Google it, you wouldn't know that right off the bat. So.
And it would give an opportunity for families who maybe lose children after the park is named.
Exactly.
To memorialize
it doesn't,
them.
make it too narrow. And it's not one person. So.
That's a really cool idea.
Connor.
Well, I like that idea a lot. I think that it's good not only because it's like kind of reapplicable throughout, like, you know, like multiple families can in there, but it's also it's a good balance between the like historical part of things and like a community driven kind of name. So, I mean, if we were to have to entertain some kind of motion tonight, obviously I can't, you know, I'm teen advisor, but I would say that we should entertain something along the lines of that, that, you know, that balance between the two, so.
It's a really thoughtful concept. I like the concept. I do. It's a discussion item. Marty, is this where I ask you to take a look at and see if you can find similar themed or named parks along the lines of what Elizabeth has proposed tonight or suggested tonight? And that way we have a little more background on, you know, what, if other communities have done this, what it looks like, and is our space the right size space for such a, you know, that's a, you know, so that's just,
That would be
you know,
my concern.
right?
that
So I mean, so, you know, and I'm
if
not,
you had enough
you know,
memorials.
I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but because I don't know, so I'm just curious.
I mean,
Purchase memorial benches. Some
Yeah.
of those families have purchased memorial.
They already have. Oh, see, that's a point.
When
then.
it
Shayna.
doesn't have to necessarily be memorial benches either. It could be something similar to what Southwest Park has at their playground that was donated, where there's names on a fence.
Or it could be trees.
It would be easier and
Could be
more-
trees.
Or trees, but I mean, then it would be affordable for people to add a name that they want to memorialize if it's just a little plaque versus an entire bench.
And was one of the names, did I see in here somewhere, like Sunrise Park or something like that? That was like a suggested name, or is that somewhere else?
No, that was,
No, that I threw that one out as well.
yeah,
I was
And
coming
I
up
kind
with-
of thought
no.
of, like, I was just reading through it again when I was sitting here, and it's kind of like, oh, Everbright, Sunrise, like,
Yeah, I
they
mean-
kind of speak to each other a little bit there. But
However, as my family pointed out, if you have some tall houses, you're never going to see the sunrise there. And I'm like, stop it.
well, in defense of that, the reason I thought it was actually somewhat applicable is because of the location of the park that it's on. It's actually on the highest point of that subdivision, and it starts dropping down significantly. It'd be highly improbable that a house would block the sunrise from this particular park. So,
Plus it comes up over the river.
yeah. So what, I guess I'm looking to the park board, and how do you want to move forward? Do you want us to,
All right, Shayna.
I guess I'm just going back to, I like the idea of naming parks for historical figures, but we don't have a history of doing it. And Marty, like you, I think you mentioned in your memo, we've always historically named parks after folks who have contributed in some way to the Parks and Rec Department or youth sports or something. So I guess that we just threw out one name and we're just going to name the park for that person without looking at other considerations, looking at female historical figures that are important to the history of De Pere. It just feels, I'd like a little bit more research, I guess, and maybe more options for us to pick from if we go in that direction. That's just the way that I feel about it. I mean, I guess I don't feel strongly about it, so if everybody feels very strongly about naming it Katie Park, I'm not, going to vote against it. But I think that Amy brought up a really valid point about parks being named after women in De Pere, and we have none. And so maybe it'd be nice to have a woman's name in there in the running as well, if we're going to name it for a historical figure. But we do have other generically named parks named after streets that maybe we could name after historical figures and rename those parks instead, if this is the direction we want to go in.
Melissa, you had your hand up earlier.
So I was gonna try and give Marty some direction. I like the idea of, I don't know why Memorial Park was coming to mind when you were mentioning that concept, but as you noted, isn't big enough to accommodate that concept. I would like to keep the idea of a historical figure's name still in the running, and whether it be Katie or we find a different name, I think that's important. So I don't know if we're any closer to narrowing this down.
I have, oh, if I'm allowed to speak. So one question, how many lots are in this subdivision? I haven't driven over there myself, so I need to.
Oh, boy.
A gazillion, okay.
No, yeah, I would say at least a couple
But
hundred.
there's still for sale and so.
They're
like,
still
it's
developing.
Still developing, right? Like there's dirt. Okay.
There's a lot of dirt.
A lot of dirt. Okay. So even if like we wouldn't even be able to raise it to residents to like how many people are actually there that if they wanted to submit feedback, do you want historical or not? I don't know.
If you're looking at surveying the immediate neighborhood, I would say it's somewhere between a third to a half developed.
Okay. So
You know,
it's very low.
the one thing I would relay, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I know our past city administrator had always brought this up. You know, we have to be a little bit careful with asking the neighborhood to name their park, because it's not their park.
No, right.
It's the entire city's park.
Yeah.
So, but who uses the park 90% of the time? The neighborhood does. So, especially when it comes to like a mini/neighborhood park. So, I mean, I guess I can offer this. I know I have talked to the mayor, and the mayor was talking with his brother McKim from the historical group. And he was supposed to provide the mayor with some ideas, and that never really came to fruition before this park board. I can reach out personally, McKim, and say, look, and maybe even sit down with him and say, this is what we're looking for. Can you folks give us some ideas? And see what that comes up with. So, but I do want to be clear, if that's the direction that you want to go, I mean, that's the direction that we go. If you looked at my memo, my suggestion/recommendation is that we do not name it after a random historical person, because that really hasn't been, our protocol over the last 50 years.
Jim.
Oh, thanks, Randy. Marty, would it be appropriate to ask the Historic Preservation Commission if they have any thoughts on this?
Oh, sure.
The whole
Yeah.
idea of going that way or not, or?
You mean as far as ask for ideas, or if they think a park should be named after someone?
Both. I mean,
Well,
ask them, do you feel like,
Honestly, maybe this is blunt. Someone might not like me for saying it, but I don't think that's their role.
right, that's
Whether
why I'm
they
asking.
it should be your decision if you want to name it after a historical person outside of Park and Rec or not. It's not. It shouldn't be their involvement. But I do think they would be very helpful in providing us, if that's the route you want to go, they'd be super helpful in trying to identify key people over the past generations that, stand out, for sure.
Yeah, and for the Historical Society, I know they're closed right now because of the,
I think their building's closed, but I mean, aren't the people still working behind the scenes?
yeah, I reached out to the executive director, and it's kind of difficult because
Okay.
she can't get into her office, but I'm
Okay.
sure McKim would be a good person to talk to.
Well, I will certainly reach out to those entities and ask for their cooperation in a formal request, not,
Yeah, and I know you wanted to get the ball rolling quickly, but I went out there a couple days ago, and just to answer your question, there's no, on the block that this park is in the middle of, there are no houses and no digging.
Two, right? There's two.
Is
I
there?
think there are two on the west end, on the far
Yeah.
west end.
Are there?
Yep.
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not really very,
It's
not
not,
at the
well,
point of being well developed.
it's not developed right next to the park, but
Right, but
but the
beyond.
subdivision. And the reason I brought it up is that's still going very quick, and building homes are still going quick. We have already received a number of comments what are you doing there? What's going on there? So if we had, I want to say we've had maybe a half dozen to a dozen calls of what are we doing there. If we had a dozen calls with 50 homes that have went in, over the next year or two, they're really going to be pressing us, what are we doing? What are we calling it?
There is a nice sign out there, so it kind of explains where the park.
We just put that out.
It's actually, it struck me that it looks a lot bigger of an area than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because it goes from one street.
Yeah, you're right.
next
It does look
street.
bigger. However, this is what I would say. Once you put in that gazebo, the playground, and the restroom facility, it won't look that big anymore, because those things chew up a lot of space. But you're right. I would agree with you. When you first walk out there, you look, oh, it's a pretty dang big place. Yeah.
But it won't look as big.
Not when the supporting facilities get put in there. I really don't think so.
What is it, like 2 acres? Is that what it is?
It's 2 or 3 acres, I believe.
As far as my input, I'd like to see what McKim might have to say. I like the idea of historical figures. Even if we haven't done it much in the past, I think it's good to mix it up, and not everything has to be done with the same MO, and I am just struck by the location and the Henry Cady story. If you haven't read about it, Matt has done extensive writing about it. It's very interesting, but I'm open to hearing more. I don't think it has to be an emergency situation, but I understand that probably 3 months would be a good.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I don't know if I can put a date on it, because people will start calling and complaining when they're going to want to call and complain. It would be nice to get some direction by the end of the summer, though, just because I do think as time goes on and as homes get built, we're going to get more and more questions of what is it.
Well, I'm sorry that the point of contact is usually a complaint, probably, but that seems to be the way it works.
Yeah, I shouldn't say. People aren't calling, yelling at us because it doesn't have a name.
Right.
A lot of the calls start with what's going in there, and then the second question is, well, what's it called? So.
Just to maybe summarize kind of how I'm feeling the direction, I feel like when I think about things like this, I feel like the story has to be right in order to name it after a historical figure. Am I opposed to the Henry Cady? Absolutely not. I think that that's a possibility. I would be really curious, though, on if they can give feedback on female names. I do think that I'd specifically like to ask that one and find out what those are. And if the story was right and it felt right, by all means, I'm not opposed to that. So I'd specifically ask that we specifically say female names in that correspond, and not that they can exclude other things, obviously, but just specifically look for that information.
I think my goal in providing you information next time is, after I talk with the entities, is if they provide a name, that we provide a short, not a book,
please.
But a short synopsis of the historical facts of that particular person or event. Maybe there's an event that took place.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's a story that fits in that area, I feel like it's going to give us a lot more direction a lot quicker.
Sure.
And if it doesn't fit, then maybe we go to the other options, right? You'll know it when you see it, right? That's my thought, at least.
We haven't excluded anything yet.
Yeah, right.
No.
Sorry, Marty. All right, is any other discussion on park names?
I just have one point. I think to the commentators from the public and also up here, we got to get it right? Like, we don't get to name parks very often. So if this is taking long and we're frustrating Marty, I think it's all with the right intention.
I agree.
And we'll get faster now that we have this going forward.
Yeah.
We won't have to backtrack on that.
Put that in the record books.
All right, staff updates. Number one, staff update on $500 tree donation from American Transmission Company.
Well, that's the update.
How many trees do we get for that?
I guess it all depends. I didn't ask, but typically our trees from the nurseries are right around $100 to $125 a tree. So probably looking in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 trees. But wait a second though. This was, I got to go back. If you look at the memo, this is actually for Arbor Day trees. So those are, I think, in the neighborhood of like $2 a tree. What are they?
Well, yeah, they're not, they're for the Arbor Day plantings with the schools.
Yep.
I think. So they don't, I don't think they plant the little guys,
Oh,
do they?
I don't know.
At the schools, they're normally planting the little ones. But, well, ATC gave us $500 for Arbor Day planting trees.
Yeah.
I can do more digging if you want to know the actual trees and where they went. I can certainly do that.
Works for me.
Couple of dollars.
I bought one.
Yeah.
All right, next up, thank you and good luck to Team Advisor James Lyga. James is finishing his term with us. It's been a wonderful adventure to have you on board. I think we always give our teen advisors 15 to 20 minutes. However, usually we amend that down to like 3.
Okay.
So if there's any parting words you'd like to share, you're more than welcome to.
Alrighty. Well, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity. It's not something that I don't think a lot of municipalities do, or really, I feel like it's kind of tough to get people that would want to do it, but I thought it was really interesting. I appreciate Mr. Soki and everybody here for the opportunity. I appreciate Marty for all his work and everybody's work on research and just their passion and commitment to the whole program. I did a little research. I was here for 9 meetings, I believe, and in those 9 meetings, I burned through a good amount of notes, and it's crazy to see how much goes into just parks. Like, it's obviously more complicated than that, but to a city resident who doesn't keep up with their local happenings, that's a lot behind it. And recently I was out at Voyager. I've been out at Voyager fishing, and you look around and it's not an easy task to get parks going and keep them maintained and improve them and make new ones. It's a lot of work. So I just want to say I appreciate everybody and keep up the good work.
Very nice.
Do you want to tell us where you're headed in fall and what your goals are?
I'll be around. I'll be living in De Pere still, going to NWTC, hopefully 2 years associate's degree for criminal justice. If everything works out, I'll be a police officer in the area, maybe a CSO in the city of De Pere if that works out. So a little bit of networking being here. Pretty nice. But so I'll be around. I'll keep enjoying the parks of De Pere and everything that the city offers.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome.
That's really nice.
Congrats.
Future agenda items.
Can I just make a comment that's not on a future agenda item? I just like to say every time in the summer when I come to these meetings and I drive by Legion Park, there are so many people out there using every square foot of that park that it just makes me feel good that I think there's some appreciation for what we all do here. And I just, thanks to everybody for continuing to be active that way. And the other little story, Marty, is the other day I was on a walk in the morning and I went by the pickleball courts and they were both taken. And the time I was just walking there, 3 couples pulled up, got out of their cars, looked up, shook their heads. Where are we going to go now to play pickleball? So I think we need to think about, they're always pretty much fully used. That we need to add a few more pickleball courts somewhere.
Our capital improvement plan agrees with you, and so does our past budget request.
But that plan only goes so far every year, right?
Well, the plan is just that, it's a plan.
Right.
But the main time is budget time, so.
But it just feels really good to go
Yep.
past the park and see all the cars and so many people using it, That's all I wanted to say. Sure.
I kid you not, I drove past there about 3 times at 10 p.m. and there were people out there playing pickleball. I don't know what you're doing at 10 p.m. playing pickleball, but there's people doing it, so.
They can play pickleball until 11.
Hopefully James will end up getting a call as a CSO to go over there.
I'd be like, ah, you're fine.
Any other future agenda items?
Yeah.
If not, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.